Most men want more clarity, more respect, more control over their lives, but few know how to get it. Welcome to the Bro Coach Podcast with Dennis Procopio, the founder of Man Up Life Coaching and the man behind thousands of transformed lives. Not red pill, not therapy, just the evolved man's blueprint for strength, presence, and purpose.
Welcome to the Bro Coach. I'm Dennis Procopio. I am your host. I am the owner and founder of Man Up Life Coaching, and this is our flagship episode. We will be discussing masculinity in crisis. What does it mean to be a man in this day and age? I think you're really going to enjoy listening. I invite you to join the conversation on socials. So when it's done, stick around and I'll give you all kinds of good links so you can join our male community as we discover what's working and what isn't in forging positive masculinity in the modern age. In today's world, we're not seeing the same archetype for masculinity that we once saw. We all know what it was like to be the, child of a dad who said, you need to be the strong and silent type, and you need to roll up your sleeves, and you need to stuff your emotions, and you need to be a protector and a provider and a performer. And if you do those things, good dog, you get the biscuit, you get the girl, you get the car or cars, you get the toys, you get the friends, you get married, you have kids, you whatever, you get the watch, you die. And somewhere along the way, hopefully you had a moment of revelation where you realized, hey, I'm a dude stoically going through the world and it's hard being a guy, but this is just kind of our lot. That was kind of the prescription. These days, women are bringing home the bacon as much as men are, if not more. Men are being asked to participate more in the domestic chores than ever. And men are being looked at as not only equal providers, but equal supporters. And so there needs to be a conversation about how we access our empathy without becoming emasculated in the process. And that's kind of where we're headed in this. There was a time when a guy would look in the mirror and he would say, I am a good man because, and his checklist, his criteria were, I'm strong. I've got a square jaw and a Superman curl. I can, defend myself against the bully on the beach who kicked sand in my face. I can, hunt and gather and leave the woman home to be the parent nurturer. That's not the same anymore. I mean, these days, if you just look around, we had the pendulum swing really far to the left socially here in the United States, where the boomer dad became the Gen Xer dad, and that's where I am. I'm the Gen Xer dad, who then became the millennial dad, who is now becoming the Zennial dad. And so, what has changed from boomer to Zennial has been, first of all, we were living a very analog existence. Our feet touched grass, we rode bicycles, we made ramps, we jumped, we drank from garden hoses, we, threw lawn darts at each other and hoped to survive. We live in a much physically safer environment than we ever have, in a way that creates a different sort of landscape for guys. Now you have to be safe online. You have to be safe with your passwords. You have to be safe with who you interact with. It's not the same world. And as far as the expectations of the man looking at himself in the mirror now, it's, do I have a $100,000 to $500,000 a year job? Does my wife or girlfriend feel that I'm a good listener? Um, am I simultaneously able to buy us a house, pay for it, put money in a portfolio and cash out and retire, but also show sensitivity to more liberal social concepts such as gender identity or, gay, straight, LGBTQ, all of that. There are a lot of things that are in our face now, but hashtag me too. Let's face it, we're not going back. We're living in a culture that has identified um, masculine uh, dating instincts as predatory. And so we're in an environment where men are simultaneously expected to approach women and to be men, but not like that, where you get publicly canceled. And when I say publicly, I mean on this national, international stage we're on, like the folks at the cheaters at the Coldplay concert. They're doomed. They're dead. So how has society changed what the man sees in the mirror and accepts as appropriate? Yeah, we're not living in the analog boomer world that we were living in before. We're living in the Xennial and coming into alpha dystopian sort of virtual world. It's becoming a little total recall over here. And it's up to guys to say, one, do I measure up? Two, by which stick am I measuring? And three, is what's new always what's best? And that's where I think we're at as men. I'm looking back at the history of men from Ooga Booga, you know, man like woman, man club woman overhead, man drag woman back to cave. That's really not where we're at anymore. We're in man on apps trying to meet woman, man invisible, man depressed, man get therapy or life coach. That's kind of really what's happening. Dudes are becoming emasculated because they don't feel the same sense of purpose that they used to, because the things that have historically made them valuable aren't making them valuable anymore. So, as I was kind of saying earlier in this set here, when your boomer dad got in his car or truck and went to work, and mom stayed home with an apron around her waist, taking care of the house, watching soap operas, and waiting for him to come home at 5:30. That's just not the lay of the land anymore. And so guys are super confused. It's just really that. It's, what is my value? What is my role? And two questions that I get asked more often than not in coaching, and I mean, over the years, have been one, what is my identity? And so this is a time where right now we're really struggling with masculine identity. It's like, what makes a man? And especially when we're in social conversations about gender fluidity and toxic masculinity, it makes a masculine identity that much harder to lock in. And then the second question is, what is my purpose? And that's a pretty abstract question. It's a variation on the question, why or how do I even exist? It's very existential. And these are the things that I think we're sorting out. I'm not convinced that we'll solve those problems in this conversation, but I think what's more important is having the conversation and hearing as many male voices in this conversation as possible to help the hive mind to work it out. Because bottom line is, it's no one else's job to tell you what your identity is as a man. That's men's job. And as far as your purpose, you might end up on a psycho-spiritual journey, stepping outside of yourself and looking at the world around you and learning your purpose rather than deciding your purpose. So it gets a little bit, like I say, it's a little meta, but that's, I think, where we're at as men right now. As we continue to discuss masculinity in the common era here, right now I'm recording in August of 2025. It's impossible not to consider the influence of politics and media. This is a super tricky subject. One of the first things people are trying to figure out about me as someone who's going to coach them is, which side of the line are you on? Are you red team or are you blue team? So for transparency, a line separates. I'd like to turn that line around and make it a bridge. I'm interested in connection rather than disconnection. Men are a fraternity, and we will be conquered if we're divided. And I think it's imperative for us to remember that politics literally means, from the Greek, for the people. Well, we, the people, have created a system that was intended to help govern us according to our moral and ethical codes. And like any government, if you're not careful, it's going to grow into a self-serving entity. And it's going to use the people to serve itself. So if I can be completely frank, I will speak my authentic truth and say that whether you have values that are conservatively aligned, values that are liberally aligned, or a little bit of both, what's most important for you, me, and all of other men is to be able to hang out and coexist. Once we work that out like grown men, then we work out our relationships with women and we father our children. And as good men, I truly believe that we need to put brotherly love before any system of government, which at the end of the day would serve itself at our expense. So, how has government currently affected this dynamic? Well, just look at it. We're being divided. I don't have to get into details. And how do we get out of it? We get out of it this way. We converse with each other and we negotiate. And if we have to agree to disagree, that's fine, but we still have to find a way to live in the same house, because that's what this world is. Now, social media, come on, man. You see it. Everybody sees it. Look, newspaper had an effect on the hive mind, and radio came along and it moved faster than newspaper, magazines, television, movies, now the internet. It is imperative that we not lose our ability to think critically and to think for ourselves rather than have our thoughts incepted by a media that is controlled by influencers who are paid by billionaires who fund all of it. Now, if that sounds radical, sorry, but that's really the world we're living in. So, how has masculinity been affected? Right now. And the question is, are you going to think for yourself and stand together as men, or are you going to bow and bend over and be separated and become slaves to the system? I think it's pretty important for us to keep the spirit of independence, not only here in America, but as a beacon of independence in the world, and make sure that as men, we agree before we accept the premises either of media or the government, which inarguably uses media as a tool for population control.
Hey man, stop spinning your wheels. If you're serious about leveling up your career, your relationships, and your mindset, it's time to man up. At Man Up Life Coaching, we cut the excuses and build discipline, confidence, and purpose. Book your free strategy session now at manuplifecoaching.com/application. Don't fill it out if you're not ready to grind, but if you are, this call could change your life. Man Up Life Coaching, elite life coaching for men by men.
If I were to say there's a masculinity crisis, different people are going to hear different things. There are a lot of misconceptions out there. One idea is that men are becoming weaker. That's not the case. Men are not becoming weaker. Men are becoming quiet. And do not mistake a man's silence for his conversion or his acceptance. I think there are a lot of men out there right now who are quiet and they're brooding. It's we're not okay with what's happening and we feel hogtied. And what's super frustrating, and this is another misconception about masculinity, the misconception about masculinity, which is that if we left to our own devices are allowed to form a masculine society, we will necessarily move in the most destructive, most misogynistic, uh, most bigoted, most toxic and hateful uh, version of a social model possible. And so therefore anyone who is female uh, or has an identity that is more liberal than conservative feels like they need to save the world from masculinity itself. The reason that that does us all a disservice is because healthy masculinity is critical to raising boys who aren't toxic and to raising girls who have a strong sense of agency. If you show me a strong, independent woman who is also a loving mother and wife, 9 times out of 10, she's someone who had an awesome father. Whatever that version of masculinity was that made him a good father is definitely not toxic. Authoritative? Probably. Um, Definitively masculine in being more of an engineer brain than an empath? Probably. I mean, these stereotypes come from somewhere, but they're loving stereotypes. They're not a threat. So, to sum up, I think that one of the biggest misconceptions about masculinity and the masculinity crisis that we're in right now, one is that men are bending over and they're weakening. I don't think we are. I think we're tolerating. Two, that we are um, left to our own devices, that we would turn the entire planet into like Lord of the Flies. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that we need women, children, and extreme, liberals or people with super liberal values to come along and help us not to turn it into Planet of the Apes. And finally, I think it's important to recognize that healthy masculinity is the solution to the problem of a lot of confused and suffering children, both male and female. So if we look at society and we say the reason that masculinity is in crisis is precisely because the pushback against historic paternalism has been the quote unquote woke, which is a term that I frankly think was appropriated from African American culture, and that's a whole nother topic that we could get into on another episode. But I think that the quote unquote hyper liberal pendulum swing has done all of us every single one of us, a disservice because we all need to meet somewhere in between. That's just how it is. Our ability to negotiate, our ability to rationalize, our ability to share, our ability to make concessions for accommodating short people, accommodating tall people, accommodating brown people, white people, any people. It's really about togetherness. And while that might sound super hippy dippy, I'm not a hippie. I'm a realist. I have neighbors and they don't always make choices that I love, and I don't always make choices that they love. And we have to find ways to negotiate. And anyone who's had a terrible HOA knows what that experience is. And anyone who's had a good one knows what that experience is. So in general, let me just simplify it by saying that men in this day and age, the mission that we're on is to, and this, like I say, this sounds incredibly ambitious, but the mission that we're on is to heal our global society. It's different now than it was before because we are a global society aware of itself. We're a reality TV show, a planetary reality TV show watching itself. It's like if you've ever been in a store and saw yourself on the camera, and started making faces and go, oh, here's me shopping. That's kind of what the planet is doing. It's looking at itself in the mirror. So, yes, we've swung left. Yes, that's important. The kickback has been that we've then swung right, and that's makes sense. But I want to introduce the idea of a radicalized middle, because I think there's this misconception that you have to be one of these poles or the other. And being polarized is precisely what I was saying earlier about being divided. And the way to bridge that polarity is to recognize that opposites are opposites of the same thing. Light and dark are just degrees of brightness. Cold and hot are variations on temperature. And liberal and conservative are just variations on lifestyle choices for getting along on this planet. It is important for us to think globally and act locally. And if we polarize and all of the red people move to Florida and Arizona and Montana, and all of the blue people move to California and wherever the hell else blue people are moving to. And then we have a Hatfield-McCoy situation where we have a civil war. Once again, who's winning there? The people that are selling us the weapons. That's who's winning. And you know who that is? It's the same people that we have instated to protect us. So yes, there is polarization. Yes, we need to radicalize the middle and say, we are these alpha centrists who are going to stop our parents from fighting here, and we are going to create peace in this house. And sorry, sucker, but everybody has to make some concessions. You get some of what you want, you don't get everything. That's called sharing the end. So the question becomes, if we recognize that we have moved to a place socially that we're not coming back from, technologically, we are in a state of advanced information sharing that we've never seen before. This is the first. We are, as I said earlier, we are in a position where, while we need to continue to think locally, the mirror we're seeing ourselves in is globally. The planet is looking at itself in the mirror. And as far as masculinity being in crisis, it forces men of the world to make decisions about negotiating what appropriateness is so that we can teach these values and model these values universally. Here's a good example. We're all aware of the fact that Europe has been significantly changed by demographics moving around. And so, for instance, you'll have people who come from Islamic cultures that were accepted into a historically sort of white Christian, Germany or Sweden or whatever. And the next thing these Somalians or Syrians or whoever are bringing their cultural ideals with them. So is Somalian masculinity and Syrian masculinity or Swedish masculinity or German masculinity, are we all reading off of the same playbook there? If not, we have to figure out how to negotiate that. Who do we learn how to be men from? We learn from other men. That's it. So mentors become critical. Who should be your mentor? Should it be your imam? Should it be your rabbi? Should it be your priest? Should it be your pastor? Should it be your dad? Should it be some atheist scientist? That's the conversation we're in. And it's gonna get worse before it gets better, because I think we're letting go of tribalism here. It's the only way that globalism is going to. Two things are going to happen. We're going to separate, and we're going to live a cellular existence, and we're going to say we're here, you're there, and we're just going to turn into entire countries are going to just turn into like libertarian values, and we're just not going to mess with each other. Or we're going to learn how to split the difference and say, hey, look, if you're one of the most important things for you to do is to love other people. Brotherly love is critical. How do you learn that? You learn that from mentors. Now, I have, as a bro coach, as a coach for men, I have clients who are religious Jews. I have clients who are practicing Muslims. In fact, one of my coaches is in Bahrain. I have clients who are Catholic. I have clients who are Church of the Latter-day Saints. I have clients who are agnostics. I have clients who are spiritual but not religious. My point is, I have clients who come from different religious traditions. But spiritually, in this community, we have proven that it is possible to live together and to negotiate our differences and prioritize what's important. And I'll say it again. It's getting your masculine identity figured out for women and children, in nature, how we treat the planet. And it's learning how to, if we got to duke it out and hug it out, I'm okay with that. I'll see you in the octagon. You know what I mean? I'm okay with that. But at the end, we need to bro hug that out, and we need to learn how to be respectable men. And teachers who understand this without getting lost in dogma, but are able to stay in the middle, which is what I think Man Up Life Coaching does, I think are critical to creating role models for the new masculine archetype. So with that having been said, I'm going to take an opportunity to thank you for listening to this flagship episode of the Bro Coach. I am the Bro Coach. I am an OG coach who started all of this back in 2013 when there was no such thing as a life coach for men. I kind of saw this coming, and now in 2025, here we are. If you would like to join our culture, which is to say thousands and thousands of guys from all walks of life who are not only success driven, but driven to be their best selves as husbands, fathers, boyfriends, and to become spiritually the best givers back that we can possibly be. Join us. The website is manuplifecoaching.com. You can find us on socials at manuplifecoaching.com/links. And I encourage you to join the conversation, not only in socials, but come talk to me personally. If I sound like somebody who could be interesting for you to have a chat with, my phone's always on and my door's always open. Until next time, thank you. This is the Bro Coach signing off.